nursing, occupational therapy, any other thing apart from that, then it's going to be hard from you, because they say at the end of your studies, you have to exit the country and go and apply the job from your from your own home country. Technically, they are telling you, you give us your money, study in in our university here. At the end of it, go back to your home country. Number two, they are saying if you go there on a student visa, you cannot switch that visa into any other uh, field that will maybe make you remain in Australia. For you to change the visa, you have to exit the country and start again a fresh application of the visa. They are technically trying to put in all these hurdles to discourage legal immigration. So if you see someone is moving around and lying to the people that have created jobs abroad for you, it's an absolute lie. And this will lead to a lot of rogue agencies. Just because the president has pronounced that we have jobs abroad, you will see these agencies coming up and lying to people that we have jobs abroad, pay this amount of money, and we'll connect you to a job, or
Okay.
maybe like a student visa.
All right.
So what will happen next? Mtauza mashamba zenu and you
All right.
end up being duped. I have a lot
Thank
of
you.
people in my DM complaining over these same things. People are depressed abroad, and
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing they can do about it.
Okay.
Tafadhali kaeni rada.
Asante. Thank you very much, Elvis. We continue. We continue. Ask for the mic. This is a citizen assembly. It is for everyone. Lewis, what are the protest on 8th? Can you tell us the protest points? What are the things that we must ensure that we are going to raise as we go on the streets on 8th of August? I mean, 8th of August, nane nane. Lewis.
I don't think Amerix, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I don't think Lewis can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
So let me bring in Mukenya Daima.
Okay.
Hello.
Let me bring in Mukenya Daima to speak about
just hold on.
Lewis.
I can see Lewis here.
Yes,
Lewis.
Okay. Sorry, I'd lost the conversation for a second.
We had said that on 8th, there are more protests called Nane Nane. What are the pressure points?
Yes,
what is
Edgar,
the messaging?
You had mentioned me.
Yes. Can you hear me? All right, Edgar, go on. I think there's a lot of connection problem everywhere.
Can you hear me, Edgar? Anyone?
Okay, Lewis, I can hear you. Proceed.
All right. You'd called my name and I'd lost the connection for a second. Could you please
Yes,
repeat whether it was a question?
actually, Amerix was the one who was asking for you to talk about the Nane Nane protests.
Oh, the ones that we will have in Nanyuki, or just in general?
Yes.
In general.
General and also Nanyuki.
All right. Ah, cool. So obviously, Nane Nane is a public holiday as declared by the people. And I've seen that one of the things that's happening across the country, unfortunately, is that a lot of young people, they're being recruited by whoever. Obviously, we know who these people are. And they're making proclamations. Today, I was dealing with a problem in Laikipia with supposed Gen Z leaders calling off the maandamanos that we were planning to have. And they said very strongly, and obviously they've been looking for me. Unfortunately, I've changed my phone number because DCI has the other one, so they can text on that one. But we've been dealing with a lot of diversions from the political class, and it's been thoroughly frustrating, especially for me who lives in a small town. You wake up in the morning and then we say we're doing mandamanos at this time, and then somebody comes up with a different poster. Of course, one of the things that is our strength is also sort of our weakness. The fact that we are leaderless, obviously, we're tribeless, and then we don't have a central point of organization. It can at some point become a deterrent, because if anybody says that, for example, I'm saying in Nanyuki, let's meet in town, somebody produces a poster and then they say we meet at a different location, I don't have that latitude to say, no, we're not. Of course, I'd say it, but obviously, when these people are sponsored, they're sponsored with the intention that when I push back on their plans, they will reiterate on the fact that we're leaderless, and then they'll say, you're trying to make yourself our leader. But anyway, it happens, all these things happen. But on Nane Nane, we're insisting that across the country, I was having a conversation with a few people this past weekend, and we were saying if we are able to do it, even as we shut down, we do the mandamanos in Nanyuki, we're thinking even of ways in which if we're able to do on Nane Nane, anybody across this country who's able to go to the CBD. Personally, after if I'm able to do it, I'll just come to Nairobi as soon as I'm done, because I'm just 3 hours away. We occupy Nairobi and then we say Nane Nane, because what happened when we occupied the parliament, and I've been having this conversation with people, is that we left. We didn't make it stick. The next time we go to Mandamanos, we need to make it stick. If we're able to go all of us to Nairobi CBD and occupy CBD, it will even be better. The ones who are not able, you need to hold fort at areas at your home areas. We also want to make sure that it's very peaceful, but it must be disruptive. And the people that keep showing up, because every single time we've had protest in Nanyuki, we've had to deal with goons. And again, and I keep insisting, our strength in the fact that we're leaderless is also sort of our weakness, because even when government operatives, and we know these people on social media, when they wake up with propaganda, they print posters in the same format we print posters. The other day they were attacking some of the key members of this protest, and they're very, very vocal and they're very organized. They wake up in the morning and then they target you. Last Sunday, some people were saying I was meeting the governor of Laikipia. Not sure what me and the governor of Laikipia would be talking about, but whatever, I guess. But on Nane Nane, it has to be said, across this country, everybody needs to wake up, and we need to make sure that this is our responsibility. Everybody needs to make it their personal responsibility to bring someone on board. And as soon as you're done, because I'm sure Mandamano's in Nanyuki, because we are rather chill town, we probably will be done by 5 p.m. If I leave Nanyuki at 5 p.m., I should be in Nairobi by 8:30. Tulale huko, wale wanakuja na chai, they bring tea, so that it has to mean something. This Nane Nane, we can't afford to do mandamanos half. And I think that's also why we're taking this break between now and up to that time. If and I'm sure that some people are able to do with minimal meals, but I think on Nane Nane, if you're done with your mandamanos and you're able to make it to Nairobi, we should all go to Nairobi, to Kayuko, because that's our capital. And I think that's exactly where these people feel it the most. Our president clearly doesn't understand the language of conversation. The other day he keeps telling us about anarchy, he keeps telling us about the instability of our country. It's a bunch of nonsense, because if somebody comes to your home and then they beat down your child and then they are stealing your TV, you walk into the living room and then this person is like, hey bro, please don't respond because it will be chaotic. So be it, let it be chaotic, because that's the whole point. We want to make sure that we are na hiyo time ikifika tusikike. Money.
Mr. Lewis, let me just clarify
Yes.
something. Anyone telling you
Yes.
about anarchy is an idiot. We have a constitution that is
True.
very, very much alive. It is well drafted there. If William Ruto and his deputy go home, there is a person who is supposed to take that seat for about, I think, 90 days, as we are having a re-election. Where the hell is the
Yes.
anarchy coming from? Hata niambia wase,
They should tell
msiogope,
us.
there's nothing
History
to
ya
worry
anarchy
about right
hatukusikiza.
now.
Yeah. So, and this is our country. Let nobody try and pretend like we just showed up into this country today. We've been quiet as these people plundered our nation. By the time tunasema this is gonna be a problem, when we say, guys, we're done, we're tired of listening to this, someone is telling us, guys, don't burn this country down. But you've been burning this country down for 50 years. So when it's our turn, we're not even burning it down. We're saying we're going to sit somewhere, we're going to march. I don't know where we'll march to, but I'll be, when watakuwa CBD mtaniambia tu when I get there at 8:30 p.m. But on Nane Nane, I will be ready to even walk. If they close the roads, tutajua tu njia ya kuingia CBD. But after we're done with mandamanos in Nanyuki, I'm making arrangements as we speak. Obviously, citizen planned. The guys who are saying that we've cancelled mandamanos in Laikipia, I've been made aware of some of them, who they are. Pointless people, unfortunately. But so that's that. on Nane Nane, we will be there. In Nanyuki, I'll take it. It's going to be my personal responsibility to make sure it happens. We'll do our best to make sure it's peaceful. And then after we're done, we'll be in the CBD. Thank you.
Oh, just a minute. Msiseme niko na kirere sana. I just feel like my questions, my rage hasn't really been satisfied enough. I wanted to ask Okiya Mtata
Yeah.
about the niobium in Kwale, pale Mrima Hills. Mr. Okiya Mtata, you told me Jacob Juma alitoa documents in your office. What happened next? Why isn't anyone? Why hasn't our country taken this initiative of taking these minerals and injecting them in our economy? What the hell is going on? Please, Mr. Okiya Mtata, talk to us.
Paulo, I don't think Okio Mtata is on the speaker panel. Acha nampatia mic, then I think atajibu. But meanwhile, Mukenya Daima, I can see your hand is up and you wanted to address the issue on Nane Nane. Juu unaniambia damu yako imechemuka we pamoja na Kilundizi.
Yeah, thank you, Edgar Bwire. I want to make it very clear that Nane Nane is our Independence Day. It is the day we liberate ourselves economically. And I want Kenyan youths and everyone in this economy to understand that we have to put our tools down to make sure that we come to Nane Nane, we come to CBD, and we march forward to State House for that small meeting of 2 to 3 million youths together with the president. One thing that we are sure of, we are dealing with our outgoing president is clearly a mad person. He's a person who has psychosis. Is someone who we can clearly tell he has lost touch with the reality. That's someone who is suffering from psychosis. That's something that clearly we can tell right now. We don't need anything else. We don't need it, and it's not someone who can solve our problem. And since we've realized our problems, where they are stemming from, on Nane Nane, I want every youth, I want everyone who thinks they are doing business. We want everyone in all sectors. It's an Independence Day, and I want you guys to understand what we are talking when what we are saying when it's Independence Day. It is the day we liberate our country. Nothing else matters at this point. That is what I want most of you to understand. That is what I want those people who feel like they are not understanding our conversation. I want them to understand this is not any other day of protest. It is the day we liberate ourselves. It's the day we economically liberate ourselves, because we've realized that we are a rich country. We are a country that has enough resources, has enough minerals to fix ourselves. We are a country that, people have been borrowing for whatever stupid reason, like buying belts. Wengine tunalipia huyu apeleke wasichana sijui Dubai and everything. No, we are just tired. We need to fix our country. I want you guys to understand that cumulatively, this is a cumulative pain, and we have to settle the scores on Nane Nane. I want us to march, and when we are marching, me, I don't march from behind, I march from front. And we get to CBD, ikibidi tukae pale chini. We are not running. We are not going to play sijui rat race with the police. We are not going to do that kind of nini. We just stay there and we march forward to State House. And once we march, we liberate ourselves. It's an Independence Day. That is what I want you to understand. Imagine you witnessing the second independence, and this one is for yourself. This one, you're doing it for you and for your future. That is what I want you to understand. Then from there, we can start fixing the country when we have Ruto out. Because when we have Ruto and when we have the presidency out, because I don't want anyone mistaking me thinking that when I mean Ruto, I just Ruto. No, I mean the presidency out. So Nane Nane, I want everyone to come out and know deep down, this is Independence Day. Nane Nane is supposed to be our Independence Day. Thank you, Edgar. And that is the message I had for the youths. Nane Nane, we must be out. It's our Independence Day.
Okay, asante sana Mkenya for keeping it at 1 minute. Kilundizi, you've told me that you're boiling.
Thank you, Edgar. First of all, I would like to thank you for this opportunity. And for me, I feel like Ruto is a mad person because he keeps lying every day. And for anyone who is believing or who thinks that there will be a change, I think I have to tell you I'm sorry. First of all, I'm beginning to feel like Ruto is the problem, because there is no way he was going to he is bringing back the same people. Now I'm beginning to feel like maybe anawatumanga akiwatuma hiyo pesa zenye wanga wanaiba wanamletea. So for me I feel like nane that is the time we should be together. Ukiona mwenzako anaenda kushikwa unakwama na yeye. I think sijui kama mliona video ilikuwa ina go around Twitter, jamaa alikatalia jamaa kabisa akienda kuarestiwa. And I want to tell everyone, going to maandamano is an individual decision. Usiende pale juu ati unaona wasee wanaenda. Enda juu unajua chenye
Wait,
unafanya.
Kilundizi,
You know what will happen to us in the
Kilundizi,
future. Yes.
Kilundizi. Unaweza ongea tu
Yep.
Kiswahili. I think Kiswahili kila mtu atakuelewa. You don't have to struggle with
Na ndio
the
naongea saa hizi.
sawa.
Ndio naongea saa hizi so far. So ndo nasema kama ni kwenda maandamano, wacha ikuwe ni your individual decision, yani kitu iko kwa roho. Usiende juu unaona wasee wanaenda. Again, kuna wenye walifeel ni kama wamekatishwa motisha. Usifeel kama umekatishwa motisha juu ati kuna big ulikuwa una maybe unaangalia, yani ni kama alikuwa amekuwa model wako kwa hiyo maandamano. Ujue kuna wenye already wako compromised, and that is something that happens ikifika kwa movement. Yangu si mengi but ni kusema 8 tutokee mazi. Ni hayo tu.
Okay, thank you so much Kilundizi. So I'm trying as much as possible to bring in a set of new speakers. I want as many people to speak as possible. So I'm going to let in Kenyan Germany lady. Hi, what do you have to say?
Hi, sorry. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. First of all, I'd like to send my condolences to those who lost their lives. Excuse me if my voice is not quite okay. I'm still not well. I'd like to tell Kenyans, you don't realize what you have achieved. You don't realize that you're currently imprisoned in your own country. Nobody is going to be allowed to leave, especially those who've been outspoken on the matters of protest. But there is hope. People will be allowed to leave when Mr. Ruto leaves. And those who still refer to him as president don't understand what it means to govern a country. They don't really understand civic history and what a president should achieve. Now, I'd like to tell you that first of all, people are frustrated. I see that there are less spaces, less numbers of people on spaces. But what I see is a regime forming, a regime in the making. You are a regime. You, people who come on the spaces, the bigger population of a country recognizes this as the current regime. That means Mr. Williams' regime is illegitimate. He can appoint as many people as he wants to. That regime, as is currently run, with the removal of the mace on the 25th, is illegitimate and he can be removed from power. Now, I would like to just brief you a bit on a few things, especially going on to the protests. Now, a government is typically recognized as an organization or group of people or individuals that governs a community or state. It usually comprises three main branches, okay? The legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. So governments are tasked with creating and enforcing laws, setting policies, and managing public resources. It has failed in the management of public resources, and that again makes it not be viewed as a government in such. It is only a regime on paper currently. There is an acting president who's not recognized by the majority of the population. That means the actual regime is the one on the spaces right now. And then also, recognition of a government can be either one, de facto or de jure, okay? So de facto recognition means you acknowledge a government that has control over a state, even if it hasn't been legally established. Even if it hasn't been legally established. And that is what we're seeing on the spaces. This is the current regime. And then the de jure recognition, on the other hand, refers to the legal acknowledgement of a government as the legitimate authority of a state. The international community can actually recognize a de facto regime as legitimate. It has happened many times before. And now I've really talked about that. I want to talk about parallel regimes. So there is hope. I'm telling you, there is hope. You can take that country and you can force him into exile, and that will happen if he doesn't step down. Now, let's talk about a bit about parallel regimes. A parallel regime refers to a situation where two or more groups claim to be the legitimate government of a state. A legitimate government has the majority support of the population, which is not the situation in Kenya. That makes it, again, an illegitimate regime. So this can occur, mostly it occurs during times of political instability. Check, that is happening in Kenya. It occurs during civil wars, revolution. So one group might control the capital and major institutions, often recognized as the de jure government. So what is currently in Kenya is the one recognized internationally. It is the de jure, but there's the de facto. The de facto government is what you guys are, okay? So while another group might control significant portions of the territory or population, it is often recognized or referred to as the de facto regime. You are currently a parallel regime. You can elect actually your own president if you wanted to, with entire cabinet ministers, and declare the other regime illegitimate. You have the support of the international community, and it's dying down because they're seeing, okay, Kenyans are kind of quieting down, but you still have that support. Now, let me talk about just a bit. I want to expound on this because I'm going to the 99 issue. I've talked about the parallel regime. In China, from 1949 to date, there is a parallel regime in practice. In Korea, 1948 to date. In Libya, between 2014 to 2021, Gaddafi, with Libya, it's so two rival governments running the country. In Yemen, 2015 to present, there is a parallel regime. In Venezuela, 2019 to present, and I also led the protests of 1st of May in Venezuela of this year. So I was there, and we talked about the parallel regime issue. In Somalia, 1991 to date, there is, those of you who know, Pan-Africanists especially know Somaliland, they want secession from Somalia. So from 1991, there has been a parallel regime, complete with cabinet ministers, with their own president, with their own flag, and that is what you guys can do. But because you're the majority, the Kenyan flag belongs to you. The other regime, William Ruto's, is illegitimate. Please understand that.
Thank you so
And
much
then also, oh,
for
I've talked too
acknowledging.
much.
Yeah, you do talk
I've
too
talked
much.
too
You
much.
do talk too much. But thank you so much for acknowledging that
All right.
within the place that you come from, there are levels of, deprivation of maybe where you would have been as it were then, because now you want to, without actually mentioning specific ways you will do it, bring our country down. I want to let you know, you have actually talked about state of anarchy, and you have actually tried to turn the
Edgar, mnapeaje Kigen mic hapa jini?
Okay, I'm sorry. Kenyan,
I'm not saying
Kenyan
Kenyans
Germany
should go
lady.
and form their own
Listen,
government.
listen. Kenyan Germany
I'm
lady,
saying,
kindly land so that we can also give someone else a
all right.
chance.
All right, I'm landing. Now, with what Mr. Ruto has said, he said that those who are flying abroad are going to receive tickets, etc. I would like to tell you that on the 31st of July last year, following the Mandamano, Kenya was declared a travel risk. So that is not possible, especially right now. So I'm just urging you, I'm not telling you to form your own government. I'm saying there is already a government in existence. This is the regime. Whether or not, I'm not saying you go and take over the other government, the other regime. I'm saying you already have the numbers to have your own regime. It is already in practice, it's just not on paper. So thank you very much for giving me the chance to speak. And I urge you, for the guys, for the sake of those who passed away, please keep fighting. And I'm not talking about anarchy, Eric. Thank you.
Can you hear me, Edgar?
Perfectly.
All right.
Amerix, you are on mute if you're speaking.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
What about there?
I can hear you perfectly. Amerix, you are on mute if you are speaking. We can't hear you. Okay, as Amerix fixes his mic, Bravin, you had your hand up.
Okay, there are few things I want to talk about because there's this issue of having a leader. I don't think we have exhausted that issue properly because this is something that people on other platforms who are also in the movement need to understand. You know, we have gotten where we are because we have been leaders. So when you have leaders in place, you are making it easier for the government to, or the rogue people who are in government, to hunt down and pinpoint individuals, and they'll go after them. They'll turn their lives upside down. They'll go and surveil them. They'll do a lot of things to those people's lives. So when you have people who are not like appointed, or you have not done the easier work for them, then it's hard for them to pinpoint individuals. So that's one. Another thing, you need to understand that the success of this movement is based on decentralization. So as people are in the villages trying to demonstrate,
Bravin,
people
improve
are
your
listening to
speaker.
people.
Your speaker is very low. Can you just fix your speaker or your mic?
Am I still low?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. So there are people who are in different parts of the country. You find there are people who are in the villages, and they're still they want to still air out their issues. So if you make it centralized, it will be a bit difficult. You will start demoralizing people because the moment you start picking individuals, that's one. If you take an individual to, let's say, a position of leadership, and for example, there are people who have not seen this person, for example, on the streets, that's one. Two, you'll not know how you're going to arrive at these leaders. What criteria will you use? There are people who are not on these platforms but will definitely form good leaders. So there are people who are doing these demonstrations out there outside social media. So we have people on Twitter, we have people on TikTok, we have people on Instagram and all other platforms. And then we have people who are not in any social media, but they are still agitating for their rights, but they can also make good leaders. But how democratic will be that process if you decide to do it right now? So those one will not get a chance to, they'll definitely be demoralized. So that's why you also do not need to have the leaders, because I still believe those people who are pushing to have a leader are definitely infiltrators. Then another issue is, when you pick leaders right now, the movement has just started moving. If you pick leaders right now, you are likely to pick people who are state infiltrators, people who are from the rogue side,
of the system that will now be in the position of leadership, and are definitely going to give the information to the people that are not supposed to get that information. And if you look at someone, there are people who are on the timeline who have started changing the tune. They have changed. They have not even sought justice for the people who are killed, but they are already singing the tune of the system, which is definitely oppressing people. Then the other thing you have to realize is this: these guys, if you want to beat a dictator or people who are rogue, you need to think like them, then think better than them to beat them. So these are people who base their own political ideology on tribal lines. The moment you pick leaders and they see like 2-3 people are from a specific region, now they'll push the tribal card very hard. They will send those mercenaries that they send every morning to come and attack the whole movement based on tribe. They will start saying this community has gotten more people, that community have gotten more people, and then it becomes a tribal thing. That is also another card that they'll throw at you. Then you need to understand there's also this issue I saw of forming a political party. You need to understand another thing. When you form a political party right now, they'll start treating you as politicians, not as citizens who are agitating for change. You form a political party right now, you now become politicians who now they'll have the ability to call you some elites, or rather people who want to overthrow a government. So you are not citizens who are agitating rights. Now you become people who are plotting a coup. And we are here just trying to push for accountability. Because another thing you need to understand is when this movement started, people needed change. They didn't really need to get CS positions, etc. That these people are telling you, front someone to go and sit there. We didn't want that. We wanted these guys to be accountable, to tell us they'll do this and do the things that they promise. So they did not deliver these things. So we are pushing them to deliver. So we do not want really to get there. We want them to appoint people who have integrity and can deliver these things, which is not something that should be had. Now, another thing that you also need to understand is that if you let the government keep chasing ghosts, it's easier for them not to be able to get one person. But if you don't, but if you appoint these leaders, then it will be easier to get these people, and they will definitely either buy them or they will silence them permanently if they cannot buy them. So the greatest weapon we have against people who are rogue, that is, and they are definitely killing Kenyans, abducting them, it is the ability to be leaderless and civic education. Those are the two things and the two most powerful weapons that we have. Then another thing that we have not addressed, I've seen Kenyan Germans talking about low numbers in the spaces, etc. You need to understand there are two things. When you are fighting a war, it's both mental and then physical on the field. That is the protest. So the government has sent the police officers who have been brutalizing people. That is intended to kill you mentally. People are being murdered. It is affecting most people mentally. And if you want to understand the impact of that, it is intended to bring the women who are coming on the street off the streets, because most women are emotionally easily affected emotionally, so they will not want to keep coming out. But you need to also encourage those people that they are still agitating for their rights. And as much as we push this, they also need to understand that they can also do the other work of online, sharing posters of probably people who have been abducted, people are missing. They can still participate in that way. So just encourage them to be a part of the whole thing, but they need to also understand that we need to also understand that people also need that support when it comes to the mental aspect of it, because these are the people are agitating for their rights. And the abuse of human rights is one of the leading causes of mental health challenges. And as someone who also advocates for mental health advocacy in itself, I am one person who is going to the street because I can see this brutality. I can feel the pinch. So as a person, I joined this movement because I feel this
Thank
thing
you.
affecting me as
Thank
an
you. Hold there.
individual. Thank you.
Ndego Advocate, you were to raise some issues on the petition. You have petitioned the is it the impeachment of the presidency? And then there was, yes, go on. The mic is yours now. Tell us.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everybody, for the submissions made. The gentleman, I think, from Zimbabwe made very able submissions in respect to the GMOs. I think those are some of the things we must pick up. Additionally, well, just to bring the members up to speed, I did share with Eric the content of the petition. The petition has 50, I think about 3 or 4 major prayers, where we are asking the um, High Court of Kenya to make a determination whether or not Kenyans can participate directly in bringing down or in removing Mr. William Ruto and Mr. Gachagua from office. We have gone to court through or seeking to enforce the provisions of Article 1, which provides that power belongs to the people and they may exercise that power directly or indirectly. So the indirect aspects of people's power in our petition, we are claiming that it has failed because Parliament has failed to hold Mr. William Ruto and Mr. Gachagua to account. Parliament has also refused to apply the available constitutional tools to hold Mr. William Ruto and Mr. Gachagua to account. And therefore, we're asking ourselves and we're asking High Court to make a determination whether at that particular time, Parliament can be deemed to have negated on its duties and obligations, and whether, upon that finding, whether the people can therefore exercise their sovereignty directly. And the means that we are proposing to exercise our sovereignty is through a referendum. We're asking the High Court to make a finding that a government can be established through an election, and the same government can be removed by the people through a referendum. That is the substantive question we are asking the High Court. The grounds upon which our petition is premised is that there is serious diminishing of capacity on the part of Mr. William Ruto and Mr. Hashagua's government, and that diminishing has withered the confidence of the people. It has rendered his government illegitimate, and therefore we're asking the High Court to give us a leeway where people can participate directly in removing him from power. We are asking the High Court to make sure that this determination is made before October, so that people can go to a referendum and vote to remove Mr. William Ruto from office. Our argument is that a referendum is not only a tool that can perhaps be used to bring about change of the constitution or to bring about change of constituencies or anything, or the amendment of the constitution. We are saying that a referendum is also a mean or a tool available to Kenyans through which a government can be established. So the other issues we are raising is that, for example, the other day he went to the US, he signed some covenants and agreed that Kenya should be a non-NATO ally without the participation of the people of Kenya, without the participation of the Parliament of Kenya. And we are asking that he has actually sold out our sovereignty. The other issue that you also raised in our petition, among others, is that he has agreed that the US should create an a military base in Lamu without asking the people of Kenya to participate in making that determination. To us, is that he has completely sold out again our sovereignty, where foreign entities and foreign states will establish their military base here without consulting the Kenyans. So those are some of the issues that we have raised, among other issues of breakdown of governance. And we are hoping that the High Court will be able to agree with us and give us an opportunity to argue our referendum or to carry out our referendum. We are asking many people to join this petition, whether you belong to your professional groups, whether you want to be individuals. We are asking especially the professional groups or the NGOs and civil societies to join this petition. We have a pool of volunteer lawyers who are willing to take up your matters and urge or argue this case before court. We're asking the Chief Justice to appoint a bench of not less than 5 judges who are going to hear and determine this case. We have very solid facts and grounds that we are relying on in respect to asking the High Court to declare that Kenyans can remove on or change a regime through constitutional means of a referendum. Those are some of the issues that we have raised in our petition. I have shared a copy of the same with Eric. Perhaps Eric may be posting it in this forum for people to go through it and read and understand the issues that we are raising before the High Court. I would reiterate once more that people are free to join this petition because the more the merrier. If you're able to collect signatures from wherever you are, as long as they are designated signatures in support of the petition for referendum, we'll be able to take those signatures again and collect them in our affidavits and show the court the weight of the case and the desire that people have. Of course, the argument about the loss of legitimacy is premised on the ongoing protest against government and the inability of Mr. William Ruto to protect life, which is so sacred, that he has unleashed his militias to go and kill Kenyans who are exercising their constitutional right. So we are saying that Kenyans have a right to remove him because he has failed to defend the constitution, which he himself swore to defend. So those are some of the issues, Eric, we are raising in our petition. I'll still remain available for further consultation or clarification. Thank you.
Can I go?
Okay, asante sana, advocates. Let me bring on board Abdi. Good evening, sir. What do you have to say?
Thank you. My name is Abdi. I am joining you from Toronto. And here is and I would say thank you to Eric, Nyakundi, Edgar, Ndwega, Advocate Njiro, and Willis, and everyone on the space, and all the speakers joining who spoke. Lately, some friends in the diaspora and around have been thinking that because Raila has joined the government, our movement is over. Let me address this sentiment. Our struggle is not yet about any single individual or political alliance. It's about the collective will of the people of Kenya. Our mission is to create a just, equitable, prosperous nation that prosperous and mission continues regardless of the political shift. Raila's decision does not define our movement nor our resolve. We must stay focused on our goals, mobilize the youth, and work towards change we want to see. Our journey is far from over, and together we'll keep pushing. Having said that, I believe coalition arrangements in Kenya have always been short-lived and formed for special purpose. This time is not different. The political class consistently unite for their selfish agenda, ignoring the root cause of our issues. The Kenya Kwanza coalition has been buying legitimacy across the political divide. President Ruto represents the old school of thought of Moi, which is now outdated. We saw recently the touring the country, seeking legitimacy, parading his cabinet appointees, politics of tokenism, Mutieto syndrome. And now this has been going on like people being cabinet secretary being paraded in Tadimari, now heading to the home turf of Wycliffe Oparanya, and trying to seek leveraging on local loyalty. This does create an illusion of widespread legitimacy based on cheers from the local community. I would say the president politics still represents politics of mass manipulation, engaging tactics that deceive the populace. Despite this effort, there is glaring political incompetence evidence reflected in the continued failure to deliver on the promises and on the process and to govern effectively. The people by negotiation, no. Their demands are well known, accessible. The senator said in earlier, Kenya our software is working, and we having said that, and our politicians also should respect Kenyans who elected them. We are not as foolish as they think or naive. Finally, the KK government is all about political settlement between right and there is no economic benefit to the citizens. And we see the KK regime is overwhelmed by responsibility and status of their office. They are yet to settle in reality they are in charge of this country. This information all political divide, as you have seen, legitimacy through tribal cabinet appointments. Kenyans will take violently and painfully anything the regime throws at them. We are up. It's not that we are up against. We are not up against two people. We are up now against an entire system and alliances, not just one person. It is them versus us. Here is the step to take to victory, nane match, as they say. Mobilize the youth. They must lead the change, organize, educate the young people about their power and potential. Let's encourage active participation in the political process to drive the change we desire in this country. The youth see themselves as the key stakeholders in Kenyan future. Two, we must enhance and embrace citizen-driven journalism to reshape the narrative and counter the mainstream media biases. Encourage independent reporting and storytelling that reflect the true aspiration and struggles of the people. The other thing you can also use is to leverage on social media. Social media platform to disseminate messages, mobilize support, maintain pressure on the political class. Social media is a potential tool for grassroots organization, advocacy, and real-time communication. I will also add this, maybe I don't know what is your school of thought. I will say we should also form alliance with like-minded groups and individuals, including the civil society organization, activists, other movements that share the vision for better Kenya. Unity, strength, and broad base of support. Final take is also civic education. Educate the public about their rights and their responsibilities. Empower citizens to demand better government. Hold their leaders accountable. Civic education is crucial for fostering an informed and active citizen. We must also ensure our young people are registered to vote. This is something that we miss every time, to participate in the electoral process, to support and encourage youth candidates committed to the cause in the coming elections. Finally, this is the thing, we must maintain violent resistance, uphold peaceful, non-violent means of protest and resistance. Violence can undermine the movement legitimacy and provide the government with a pretext to crack down. Non-violent resistance ensures a high moral ground and broadens public sympathy. With that, I say thank you for giving me this opportunity, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Edgar, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, I had asked Njiru a question. I had asked him, there is an election law where vehicles will now be declared as polling stations. So I was wondering, don't you think a member of parliament will designate his car to be a polling station? What are you doing about this? And then I'm also asking you, Wakili Njiru, kwa nini tusitumie tu ID kupiga kura? Kwa sababu mimi nikitaka kufungua bank account leo wataniomba ID. Nikitaka kufanya those very serious transactions, they will not ask for my voter's card, they will ask for my ID. So how comes mimi nikienda kupiga kura naulizwa voter's card and not ID? And I think ID is more powerful than a voter's card. Don't you think we can skip that process of voter registration and save the 9 billion? Because every voter registration exercise inachukwanga between 9 billion, between 7 billion and 10 billion in terms of money. Why can't we skip that and then we just decide to tumie ID card? Wakili.
Thank you, Eric. Allow me to begin by perhaps sharing my small knowledge about elections. The reason why we register voters, one, is for ease of electoral management. For example, the procurement of election materials. We need to know the exact number of materials that we are procuring. Number two, if we were to say that every Tom, Dick, and Harry goes, and that an ID would be the ultimate document and that does not require registration, it means that then we are not able to hold, rather to account for how many votes have been cast. For example, we need to know how many registered voters are there in a certain constituency and how many turned up for voting. This, of course, will deal with the issues of electoral malpractice because we are certain as to the number of the registered voters. So for me, the problem is not about registration because registration is quite crucial for election management and also for accountability purposes in an election process. Number three is the question of the ID is paramount. And you can see government uses ID as a means of suppressing voters' registration and subsequently suppressing the outcome of an election and the ability of people to express themselves. And while ID is quite crucial because voting must be done by individuals beyond the age of minority, what we should be calling for is acquisition or access of these ID cards. We should be proposing that the the process of processing the ID cards ought to be devolved from Nairobi to the counties and make it easy and expedient and efficient for people to be able to acquire them. Because IDs and registration of elections are intertwined. Number three, the question of motor vehicles being used as voting areas or voting regions or voting centers is a serious question because who determines when a motor vehicle should become an instrument where voting should take place and what is the justification? To me, I think that is bad legislation. That is a bad law in my view. It's a law that is capable of being abused in favor of the persons who have the ability to influence the elections. And as such, that is one of the issues we should be raising with the IBC Act, that it requires urgent amendment so that we may seal all possible loopholes where elections can be manipulated. I think that's all, Eric, for my clarification.
All right. Thank you very much. But before you leave, will you be in a position to connect with Rutendo from Zimbabwe and
Yes,
see if you can follow up on this issue of GMOs, especially this livestock bill? Yesterday, we saw women from Samburu
yes,
protesting that their milk is being taken away by the dairy board.
yeah,
And these issues of rural farmers is going to escalate. Very soon,
yes,
you'll see more and more farmers going to the streets complaining that their
yes,
yields and their produce are being suffocated by government policies and boards and authorities. Don't you
yes,
think you can link up with Rutendo so that with
yes.
as a nation we can see what we can do to stop these IMF infiltration of our food systems, health systems, and those kind of things?
I would be glad and more glad than ever to join hands with fellow Pan Africanists because
Yes,
this is a
Rutendo.
compounded. Mr. Rutendo. These are compounded problem that is facing Africa. For example, that livestock bill is a toxic bill that is being proposed by Parliament. And perhaps just to highlight some of those things is that you'll not be able to grow fodder in your farm. You'll not easily be able to feed your cows with the millet or the corns that you're farming in your farm without the accreditation of a body they are calling an authority to regulate that. Even for you to build a small shed for your cows, you require to be regularized. For you to sell your milk, or even for you to go and get a bull from your neighbor just to come and serve your cows, you'll also require to be regularized. So some of these things are the ones that global movements are making it difficult for us to perpetuate our African traditions, culture, and to perpetuate ourselves. Why are they restricting that my neighbor cannot come and ask for some assistance from my bull to serve its cow? Simply because they want to control the genetics. They actually, in the livestock bill, establishing a genetic center. The genetic center will be manned by an authority that they have created under that particular act. It means that your cow cannot be served by the genes of by the bull of your neighbor, and therefore they are trying to globalize even the manner in which our cows will produce. Not even cows, even your dogs and your pets are also regularized by that particular act. To me, we need a full day to, or a full session to go close by close on that particular act. I've read it, I have gone through it. Is an act that we must call out Parliament to reject the way they rejected the finance bill. But also we also need to look at the question of globalization and how globalization is also influencing the manner in which and how we live. They want us to completely alienate our food sovereignty so that we may become completely dependent on them. So I will be able to join hands with Rutendol. I don't know how I get his email. Eric, you'll favor me with his email, because even the GMO case as we speak is still in court, in the Court of Appeal. But if you look at the judgment that came from the High Court that was delivered by Justice Angote, you realize that there must have been some serious influences behind these GMO bills, GMO judgment. And those are some of the things we also need to push Mr. William Ruto to repeal. Why should he chalk the GMO policy down our throats? It should be one of the issues that we must be able to target, because GMO is a threat to our very existence. It is threatening our food security. It is threatening us, and I've heard Mr. Rutendo submitting very ably how cancer prevalence and how cancer has become prevalence within this African continent, because there's an intention by the globalists to make sure that they control us even in what we eat on our tables. So Eric, I'll be glad to get that number or any contact that will make us form a formidable force against Mr. William Ruto's policies that he is holding brief for the Americans. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I give to Retender to respond, I just want to tell my listeners this way, because most people don't understand the consequences of what is just going to happen. This is what they're saying. Wewe ukikuwa na ng'ombe yako, ukikuwa huko mtaa and you have your cow, na unataka hiyo ng'ombe ikuwe serviced, yani ipandwe na bull, hauwezi fanya vile tumezoea kufanya. You see, ukikuwa na ng'ombe huko village, unaongea na jirani, anakuletea bull, ina service ng'ombe. Lakini this time huwezi, lazima upate license, na hiyo bull lazima ikuwe na license kwamba iko na the correct gene yenye wame declare hiyo ndio gene tunataka. Kitu ingine, you cannot feed your cow. Mimi huko kwangu nimezoea nikivuna mahindi ama nikivuna beans or when I cut my bananas, I cut that banana stem, nakatakata into small pieces, naeka chumvi kidogo, napatia ng'ombe wanakula. This time, when this bill goes through, that one is not possible. It will not be allowed. You cannot give your cow feeds that have not been regularized by that authority. So hii ni issue yenye ni serious because someone wants to control what you eat, how you eat. Hata ukikamua maziwa, uko na ng'ombe yako hapo inakupatia 3 liters. You cannot give this maziwa to a neighbor. Labda neighbor anataka kununua. Saizi watoto wamefunga shule, they are at home, they are taking a lot of tea. Na labda uko na ng'ombe inakupatia 3 liters, 5 liters, and a neighbor comes to buy. You are not supposed to sell without the authority of these boards and those authorities. So hii ni kitu serious. And this kind of globalization yenye Ndegwa anaongelea hapa ndio ime lead to the rise of chronic diseases zenye tuko nazo in the country today. Saizi kanza ziko juu. I'm sure those who are listening now, kwa familia yenyu ama haujaisikia familia yenye haina mtu ako na diabetes, hypertension. Yet mnakumbuka when we were growing up, it was very difficult kusikia mtu ako na diabetes. Very difficult. It was very hard kusikia mtu ako na hypertension. Haikuwa rahisi. But right now, kila family huwezi kosa diabetes, hypertension, ama cancer, arthritis, kidney diseases. Jana kwa kliniki yangu, I was attending to a young man, 21 years old. Ako na kidney disease. Mtoto mdogo sana. Inafaa aende KMTC, I think in September. A very young man, 21 years old, with a kidney disease. Because of these foods we are eating that are being brought to our country. Na inafaa mjue kitu moja. Niko na rafiki anaishi Iceland, anaitwa Job. Job tells me that the mboga that they eat is organic from Kenya. So them wanataka tuwatumie organic chakula, lakini hao wanataka kutuforce tukule inorganic chakula za GMOs. So this is a great issue that we must prosecute and resist. Rutendo.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You've said it so well, and you've summed it up in a very amazing manner. But there's another concern that is happening. There is academic imperialism that is currently taking place, or intellectual imperialism, where any thought that is African-centered is looked down upon and legislated upon by African leaders acquiescing to international conventions that they sign without interrogation of anything that is happening on the African continent. So you need to understand that the country with the most cattle in the world per capita is actually Chad. And with Chad, they actually have more cattle per capita than any other country in the world. And they have done that by preserving their cattle as the indigenous species, raised according to the indigenous tendencies or the indigenous practices. I'll give you a perfect example of how it is that we see the success of Chad. When Chad got independence in 1960 or 1961, they had the same amount of people and cattle as Zimbabwe then, 1961. 2 million cattle and about a population of about 5 million people. Today, Chad has got 32 million cattle, and Zimbabwe has got 5.6 million cattle. That means that Chad has been able to increase its herd by 6 times the amount that Zimbabwe has. Why? Because Chad, the moment that France stopped colonizing Chad, it had not totally changed the traditional practices. France had not changed the traditional practices of the Chadians. They continued their traditional methods. While Zimbabwe was exposed to hybridizing the cattle of Zimbabwe, turning them into a mix of European breeds, Indian breeds, and other breeds that were not indigenous to Zimbabwe that were susceptible to the cattle. Point number one. Point number two, there was also the proliferation of diseases like foot and mouth and other diseases, like anthrax, by the white colonizer in order to ensure that they kill the self-sufficiency and the bank of Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe compared to Chad, where the French did not do that. So I actually read the U.S. Industry of Trade encouraging American biotech companies to try and penetrate Chad with vaccines and other medications. And the question is, Why would they do that? Yet the so-called most successful country in production of cattle utilizing European techniques in Africa is South Africa. They've got 19 million cattle in a population of 60 million people. That means that if Chad, which has 15 million people, has got 32 million people, 32 million cattle, it's doing better than South Africa. It is doing way better than South Africa. So it's got nothing to learn from South Africa. In fact, none of the countries following the European practices of animal husbandry have anything to learn from any of the countries that are practicing white husbandry, but they have to learn from countries like Chad, Uganda, Ethiopia, and even Kenya. Kenya has been using traditional techniques, has been using a migratory pattern of herders, and that should be what we are copying. And even this new legislation on how to breed your cattle should not be encouraged, because the diversity and mixing of cattle in these migration patterns are what has made your herd very resilient. It is also what makes your cattle much more valuable in Kenya than when you buy the same cow in South Africa. But the problem is our leaders, people like Ruto. Even my own country has got a leader who is not proud of what it is that is genetically and originally Zimbabwean. They allow the attenuation of these genes. And I wanted to say before I go that together with this new act that is coming in, the current draft, you guys also have to read up on the Kenyan Seed and Plant Variations Act. Read about how it is that it is so difficult in Kenya for a Kenyan to get a license to develop seeds and to develop plant varieties in Kenya. Only Monsanto, Syngenta, DuPont, and Dell are the only companies that can do that, Seedco. And these Seedcos are not our companies. A lot of people have believed that Seedco is an African company. It's not an African company. It's a French company owned by Vilmorin that is actually Lima Grain. And that is the company that is selling tomato seeds in Europe for 60,000 euros to 400,000 euros. We will not be able to afford maize or millet if we allow this company to continue to hybridize and to turn into GMOs. And it's important for us to understand it's not only GMOs that are a threat to us. Another threat is the hybrids. And we are currently using hybrids thinking that they are not inimical to us. They are inimical because a hybrid will produce first season, second season you struggle to produce. In fact, it will not ever reproduce true, so you have to rebuy the seed. If you use it twice or three times, then it stops producing. So your grandmother, your grandfather, you need to continue to rebuy seeds every season. Number two, because of the hybrid vigor, that so-called increases production in a hybrid, that hybrid vigor has been known to attenuate the minerals and nutrients of a crop, the vitamins, by up to 78%. So you're eating a crop that has no nutritional value. And this is why our people are getting sick. And what I'm going to do that right now is I'm going to put up there an article in which I am writing about, in which I'm talking about the correlation between the usage of GMOs and the usage of the chemicals that go with it, glyphosate, and the increase in all known chronic diseases in America. And that can be superimposed, or we can extrapolate that into Africa, and you see that the pattern is more or less the same, because we are all human and we are suffering under the same chemical warfare. This is what I call it, and biological warfare. And like I said to you guys, pay attention, please, to this company in Kenya that is from Zimbabwe that sells you chicken in, Baker's in, Creamy in. We call it Simbisa Brands. I don't know what name it is going by in Kenya, but I've seen the outlets everywhere I went in Kenya. When I went into the townships in Kenya where the poor are living, I saw so many of those outlets. They sell toxic food. Their chicken is absolutely atrocious. And I'm saying, let us begin to boycott some of these companies. Let Kenyans begin to ask some of these companies to leave Kenya and go back to where they're coming from. Because they cannot be European companies owned by Europeans who come in, poison our people, and kill our people with fast food instead of giving us the right quality of food that we need. And I think as a people, the youth must understand that We've got to become less siloed in our understanding of what is important for us. So in Zimbabwe, we've been taught about the importance of minerals. In South Africa, they're being taught the importance of land. And I'm saying, if the land does not have seeds, if the land is not living, if there are no bacteria, if there's no worms in the land, if you are poisoning that land with chemicals and chemical fertilizers, that land becomes pointless, useless. We need to become holistic in how we realize what matters to us. So we need to eat first. We need to eat healthy food second. That healthy food becomes medicine for our bodies. Then we begin to worry about the economic issues when we have secured our food. Because Hitler always said that Germany was no use as an industrial power if it was not a what? An agricultural power. Many people didn't get what he meant by that. But the reason they lost the Second World War is they were starved of two essential things. They were starved of number one, food. No one would sell them food. No one would buy their electronics and the best machinery that they had, and no one would give them oil. And what that did is they ended up fighting to try and get land in Poland and land in Russia and oil in Baku oil fields, which is currently Ukraine. And that is how they got defeated once they were starved of food and starved of oil for long enough. We must learn from that, that you can be industrialized, you can mine, you can have industries, but if you don't have food, it means nothing. That is why America continues to be food self-sufficient. But while they're being food self-sufficient, the idiots have decided to kill their own people with toxic GMOs. That is why today they've got the biggest amount of chronic illnesses and the use of chronic medication, where 58% of the world's chronic medication is consumed by America. And for those of you who've been to America, those of you who live in America, you've seen how many Americans look obese and many look like zombies. Even the mental illnesses have increased in that country. But those people can afford to treat their people in their chronic states as amoebas as they look, as zombies as they look. What about here in Africa? We can't afford that. We're still trying to catch up with the rest of the world. We cannot afford to be eating these foods that have turned these people into zombies, because we don't need zombies in Africa. We need the healthiest population mentally and physically in order to prosper this continent and to defend it. And at
Thank
the
you.
rate we're going, they're actually turning us backwards into these zombies that are sick, that are mentally disturbed because of the food that they're feeding us that is nutritionally deficient. Now,
Thank you.
lastly, I don't
Mhm.
even understand why I'm using the word the food they are feeding us. Because as Africans, we shouldn't be fed by other people. Every person should have a village where you can grow your own food and reproduce that food. And if you lose your job in America or at home, you should be able to go to the village and be able to sustain yourself. We are losing that sustainability because of dependency on imported food, imported seeds, imported chemicals, and imported machinery. And we need to work on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rutendo. So I will connect you, Ndegwa, with him so that you can continue this conversation together and for the benefits of our Africans. But before I hand over the mic to Edgar and Cyprian, my co-hosts, I just want to tell you guys, take care of your health. Take care of what you eat. It is not rosy. It is not good as you might think. It is bad. Don't just eat anything. This is a chemical warfare against the people of Africa. And that's one of the reasons why we are on the streets protesting for our sovereignty. Mchunge sana, kitu mnakula, your health and your life. Right now, that shifting, I don't know, whatever it is, that rogue thing yenye imetoka WHO will not help us. Edgar, back to you.
Thank you so much, Amerix and Rutendo. So I'm going to bring in Roslyn Wanjiru. Hi, how are you? You have the mic. You can give your submission. Roslyn, are you speaking? Can you hear me? Amerix, am I audible?
Yes, you're okay. You're okay, Edgar.
Okay, Roslyn, I can't hear you, so I'm going to move to Henry Indindi. Mambo vipi bingwa, na una mambo yepi ya kusema kuhusu swala hili zima ambalo tumekuwa tukizungumzia tangia saa 2 za usiku? Bwana Henry, waweza nisikiza, waweza nipata? Wanipata?
All right. If they're not available, just move to the next one. I've been trying to bring Okia here. I don't know why he is not joining in as a speaker. There are those issues he had raised, and he needs to finish the cabinet, the whatever, and all those things. You can remove these others, Henry and the other one, then bring in others. There's so many requests I can see here, 103. Just bring them so that they can talk.
Okay, let
Okay,
me
okay,
try.
okay. I sent you the link, the mic. Just accept, come back so that we finish the discussion together.
Cyprian.
Yes, Edgar.
I really can't see any mics on my side, so if you could also assist me in adding more people on the speaker panel. Juu kwangu naona request 9 peke yake, nikijaribu kuongeza inakataa, sijui mbona.
Okay, okay.
Bravin, you can finish your submission. Bravin, are you there? DK Lemay?
Hey, hi, Eric.
Yeah, go on.
Um, I just want to interject on the issue of the gold mining. Okay, I come from Narok, and really, at a place called Kilimapesa in Transmara, there's a lot of gold mining going on there, and we have not seen any even benefits as the county. We are not even aware who are the real owners of these gold mines. And I'm not sure even if the national government is benefiting out of it. Or I think it is just the private guys who are doing this. Also, to go on the Nanenan, guys, I think we should mobilize and make sure that we occupy that day and make sure that these guys go home. When we come, and my comment, I think, and I think I will differ with maybe many on this, we should have maybe representatives going forward, because I don't see anywhere, and maybe someone can give me maybe a reference of any country in Africa on liberations or revolutions that have succeeded without representatives or leaders, if I may say. So I think that is my humble submission, and I wish we should not maybe relent and lose hope. However much it might be difficult to move on, but let's make sure that we will not lose the moment, because this is our time, and history will judge us harshly if we just think that we have achieved. There's nothing we have achieved yet. Let's just soldier on. For I see a brighter future ahead. So thank you. Maybe you can pass the mic to other speakers because of time.
Thank you so much, um, Dr. Lemay, DK Lemay, sorry. And thank you, Cyprian, for adding these new fresh speakers. I really can't see them on my side. So 1 minute, Irene. Irene, are you there? Okay, I'll move to Mariama. Okay, ni mimi amnisikii ama ni mimi
Edgar,
amnisikii
No,
ama
no,
ni
Edgar,
mic
just
you're just
haitaki kuongea?
okay. You're just okay. They're just slow. I don't know what's
Yes,
going on with
yes.
just
their
one
mic.
point. Just
Hello.
one point that I forgot, Edgar. Kindly, I was just to comment about our counties. I think when we gifted ourselves the 2010 constitution, we devolved resources nearer to our communities. But it has come to be that we really devolved much of corruption, and there is a lot of corruption in our counties. And we should not just focus on the national government. Let's also make sure that the county leadership or those who are accountable in our counties should be occupied and be accountable with our resources, because we really gifted or entrusted our resources in their hands, and they are just busy enriching their pockets. So let's mind where we come from. Thank you.
All right, history, Kenya. History.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I just want to make a comment about the depopulation agenda, the neocolonialism we're seeing in agriculture, and so on and so forth. On my part, I am not sure, but I am convinced, and there is really no better sign that our president is captive to the whims of globalists. We've seen some of these signs manifesting themselves, and these globalists intend to exercise control on our legislations and therefore government policy. And part of the reason why they're doing that, obviously, is because of profit. And this is raising questions, some of which have been raised in spaces here, whether our president has, at some point got transactional ahead of elections with them. What I mean is, were there promises that he made to them? The president, as we know, campaigned for close to 5 years. Even when he was deputy president, he was in campaign mode. Was there a deal that was struck that they would fund his campaigns in exchange of his support of the agenda? These are questions that we need to ask. Eric, please allow me to depart radically from what this handle has been famous for. We've been synonymous with the history of Kenya, of course, as the handle suggests. We have, from last year, we began reporting a great deal on the ugly head aspects of the ugly head of neocolonialism rearing its head in Kenya. Actually, some of my followers, started sending, replies saying that I'm pushing conspiracy theories, and in fact, some of the posts that we made, we had to bring them down because we did not want to drag our Twitter handle into disrepute. Oftentimes we were citing foreign media stories, some of them from very, respected media houses in the West, mostly American. But we were convinced that globalists had brought their wicked agenda to our shores. And if you allow me just a few minutes, I'll, speak to some of this. And I'm glad that Rutendo mentioned some of them on this space. And Degwa has also made reference to some legislations, and I wish to laud him and others who wish to offer their legal expertise to support this cause of breaking the yoke of this neocolonialism on the agriculture front. It is worth noting, ladies and gentlemen, that many EU countries, I'm talking about EU, Europe, the UK, have slammed their door on some of the maneuvers that we're seeing from globalists, particularly from the US. And if you allow me, I can share specific information that is relevant to the liberal renaissance we are seeing with, Gen Z, and I think now it has caught up with the rest of the Kenyans, and also matters that are close to health, which Eric also you're famous for. Any Kenyan who has lived in the US will tell you that the taste of their bananas, the taste of their oranges, the taste of their fruits, melons, it tastes very different. And this taste is characterized by a sweetness that pales a great deal in comparison with the sweetness that we find in fruits, particularly from sub-Saharan Africa. Why is the taste pale in the US, in the West? Because farm produce in those countries, like in the US, particularly in the southern states of the US, these farm produces have been poisoned by mechanized, heavily fertilized soils. I will not even go to talk about pesticides. Industrial fertilizer, many of you may not be aware that industrial fertilizer actually depletes nutrients from soils. It kills the microorganisms that God ordained in soils. It actually poisons groundwater. It even destroys the worms that the chickens, they feed on. And many farmers, particularly in Kenya, believe that fertilizer is golden, and these are the things that we should use. Yet there are alternatives. If some of you may know that many foreigners in Kenya, particularly from the West, working for UN or the many international agencies based here, when they retire, they want to stay on in Kenya. And if you get into a conversation with some of them, they'll tell you, here, other than the fantastic weather that we have, our food is tasty, our food is nutritious, our food is healthy. I think somebody mentioned that, I think somewhere in Scandinavia, they're eating greens that are produced in this country. But not to digress, there is an aggressive agenda in Kenya, led by government, for reasons best known to them, to promote the use of industrial fertilizer. And that some of this fertilizer is, or a great deal of it, is actually subsidized. And the question arises, why are broke African governments providing farmers with subsidized fertilizer? Because it's part of a depopulation agenda. And some of the investors that we know who have invested in agriculture globally, multinationals, themselves have been outspoken, and they've made it bare that Africa needs to be depopulated. Our forefathers, for centuries, they've been custodians of very noble practices in agriculture. The Ameru and the Kikuyu in Kenya, for example, they abandoned a farm after 4 or 5 seasons so that the soil could degenerate. They knew how to use compost, because compost is, of course, is freely provided by the designs of our Creator, and so some of these practices are being replaced, and they're being sacrificed at the altar of commerce by globalists, and it's a very unfortunate that we seem to be now led by a government that is captive to their agenda. And I'm really asked for this mic just to sensitize Kenyans to open your eyes. There is an agenda that is going to kill us. It's undermining our health. Just to give you an example, industrial fertilizer is not good for food, as much as you may refuse to admit it, because there's a certain order. All the nutrients come from the soil, including fish. Fish feed on algae, or fish feed on algae, on other fish that feed on algae. All the nutrients come from the soil. We eat meat. Americs will tell you meat is rich in iron, it's rich in B vitamins, it's rich in selenium. They come from the soil. There's a certain order that is being upset, that is being interrupted by commerce. And we need to be sensitive to that. And our government, which is leading the government in trust for Kenyans, is actually pushing legislation that is going to kill Kenyans, make us sick. And it started off with fertilizer. It has now spread to seeds. It is now getting to livestock, including beehives. If you own a beehive, you'll now need, if the legislation that is, I think it's Kimani Ichung'wah, the leader of government business, is the one that is pushing this, of course, on behalf of government. If that legislation sees the light of day, you will register your pig, your cow, your camel, even your beehive. What is their interest in honey? And we know bees are getting scarce around the world.
Yes.
And if bees disappear from the face of the planet, so will food.
Yes.
So there is somebody who is looking to exercise control. Some of them are some of the wealthiest individuals. They are the biggest landowners. So we need to act like detectives. Just look at the jigsaw puzzle, and you will see that there's a pattern. So I just thought I will mention that. I don't want to hog the microphone, and I'm loving these conversations.
All right.
And this is great civic education for Kenyans. Asante, Eric.
All right.
Yeah, I'll yield.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Edgar, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, you have to be keen because I've been sending you messages on your DM, and also Cyprian. So who is next? Wakili Steve. 2 minutes each. Wakili Steve, you see the problem is people ask for mic. When you give them the mic, they come here, they fumble, they don't talk. Wakili Steve. All right.
Eric, from my end, Wakili Steve does not seem to have the mic. He's on listener mode, but maybe I'm mistaken.
Edgar, what do you see? I can see him.
Hello.
All right, go on.
Hello. Hello.
I think you can carry on. We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, my name's Amy. Thank you for giving me the mic. I only have a contribution that I feel like we should really take into consideration. My first point is that I think we should really talk about our sovereignty as a country. And as we're fighting for good governance, I believe that we should start by the protection of our food, our education, our health systems. We should make noise. We should talk about our seeds. We should talk about our children going to school. We have a lot about our sovereignty first. If we start fighting this, because I look at elections are coming soon. There's the issue of IDs. There's the issue of registration. There's the issue of IBC reforms. We've not done. There are some constituencies. I think there's one that an MP died. They have never gotten an MP until now. So I think even as we think about other issues, I think the first issue should be about our sovereignty, about our food, about our health systems, about our education. These are the most important things that I think we should really talk about them. I'd also like to say that we should also not forget the people who died, especially during the Mandamanus. We should really ask, like, how are these, like, what are the police reforms that has been done? Another thing, as we're busy here discussing, I also want us to do one thing, that let's think about 2027. In as much as we are trying to get we are trying to ask questions, get good governance, there's also the issue of what are we planning about 2027? How are we arranging ourselves? Who is going to do what? How are you going to like vie for this maybe for positions? What are we doing so that we are not caught off guard when 2027 is just is around? Because we only have maybe 2 years to elections. So I think these are my points. And then another thing, we've always been peaceful, yes, but I would like to say that let's just maintain peaceful protests. If you see someone maybe who is not peaceful, maybe you can tell the rest of the people, and then maybe you can hand them over to the police. And then I think another thing as well, this is not, I don't know how people will take this, but I feel that this is a spiritual war as well. This is not just physical. So I would like to speak to the Gen Zs and the millennials, because I am a millennial. Please, can we pray about this? Can we pray every day as we go? Can we pray about our nation? Can we pray about God's guidance? Can we pray about what to do next? And even as we pray, we can pray as we fight. Pray as we fight. I believe even in meetings like spaces, let's start with prayer and end with prayer, because I believe God is sovereign and the hand of God is upon us. And I know that we'll get victory. So this is what I wanted to say, and thank you for the space.
Hello, next. Baravin, you can mute your mic. I think Edgar dropped. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk. And first, I would love to pay my condolences to the fallen members. And I would like to dwell on just two things, if you may allow me. One, I'm so much concerned with the legislations that we have, plus the current leaders that we have in this country. I've tried to analyze the kind of spirit that they do show whenever they talk. And we realize that as a nation and in Africa, we have a problem of Gucci. We call them Gucci revolutionaries, where we get these few individuals, they get into a club of some rich guys, and now they can do the Gucci issue. They sell us to the highest bidder. So we get a big problem where we cannot nationalize any of our resources. That's when we go to mining, when we come to agriculture, even the seeds. So I feel like even as the lawyers around here are going to write things to lead the legislation. Kindly, let's make it, let's nationalize our resources where we can produce them and do the finished product in the country. I know most of us would feel like that's not possible, but it is possible, because from the history, one thing that they never twisted is that they used to tell us the Bantu, who are the majority in Africa, learned the iron smelting skills. So they'll break the iron ore and make irons. The major thing that I would like to talk about
Yeah, finish.
is agriculture.
Finish.
Yeah, this is the last thing I'm saying. So in agriculture, one of the students of the co-host, and he was saying you should learn on how to do farming and you should put it in art. So I went and I got to farming of watermelon. I was shocked that I bought a seed. Each seed had a price. I bought 3,000 seeds for 12,000 Kenyan shillings. So yes, it is real. When I was doing the farming, I did it in Muhuru, that's along the where next to Makalda, where they mine gold. And I noted that we used a lot of pesticides for them to come to the table, and some were crazy to a point that the farmers have been given the new seeds that we never used to have because we are looking for hybrid vigor. They use unconventional pesticides. For instance, this pesticide of BBT, they were this one that they spray for the malaria. And we messed with the ecological system because in Migori sector, that's where the omenas come from because of the mosquitoes. They call them SAM. It comes like a cloud. But the activities we were doing there was messed up. So apart from just talking about food security, should we really think about the seeds, the practices, the fertilizers. And lastly, this is one thing that made me request for the permission. I was in Jambini early this year. They plant flowers. Flowers are GMO. They use a lot of pesticides. And if you go to where the Nairobi water is collected, it tastes pesticides. So that also begs the question, what kind of agriculture do we do? And how does it affect the water? And these flowers, we don't buy them in Kenya. They are bought in Europe. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Wakili, you had something disturbing you. Maybe share it?
Thank you very much, Eric. I want to salute all the patriots here for the continued vigilance we have had for the last 6 or 7 weeks about our country, especially on how the president and the government has been disregarding the rule of law. And what I feel I wanted to share today and to remind Kenyans in brief was as we have this conversation and we hold our leaders accountable, it's important we focus on especially these seats of members of the county assembly, members of the National Assembly, and the Senate, and how they discharge their mandate. And the reason why I say this is because we find that there have been very poor aspect of how they deal with these corrupt officials that we have, especially governors. You find since the Senate was established in this new constitution, every person who has been taken there is always acquitted by the Senate. And the question is, are they really doing the right job, or they're just a toothless dog that is never able to bite anyone? So we need to also, as we also look at the National Assembly, the aspect of the national government and cities construction, the Constituent Development Fund, the NGCDF, how the involvement of the member of parliament, because the core business that now our parliamentarians in the country have focused on is the aspect of developments under the NGCDF without any discharge of parliamentary duties that we expect of them. And that's why these persons had the audacity of even telling Kenyans that their allegiance is to the executive, whose agenda they advocate through the NGCDF, and not the parliamentary role of oversight. This has hindered, and this has led to much corruption that we have been witnessing in this country, and lack of accountability, because this particular parliament cannot even hold the cabinet secretaries accountable for anything. We saw them reinstate Linturi after the sagas that surrounded the ministry and all the losses the Kenyans are suffering because of the fertilizer that was not proper for the agriculture in this country, which is our backbone. So if we do not focus on these roles, the exact role these persons are supposed to be discharging, and hold our leaders accountable, especially those in the assembly, we may never have a system which is be able to check the executive firmly even in the coming years. And that is what Kenya has lacked for a very long time, that the executive doesn't have anyone who is checking it in the right manner with a proper look without this aspect of allegiance. And once we remove NGCDF, and the High Court has pronounced itself on this issue, the Law Society of Kenya had pursued a matter, on this issue. And the High Court pronounced that the national government, that time it was called CDF, was unconstitutional. What did our parliamentarians do? They ran immediately to create a new act, operating in the same structures, but now under a new name to be able to continue running that particular fund. And this has made it impossible for even the citizens to hold accountable the executive, because when you see a school being built under the NGCDF, the member of parliament won't take credit of it, the national government won't take credit of it, the member of county assembly won't take credit of it. So the public may never hold these persons exactly accountable for what they're supposed to do or what they're not supposed to do, because they don't even understand the role they do or the role they're supposed to be carrying out. I was watching the news today in the evening, and I saw the scenes of Capedo. And you look at how that area has been strategically marginalized by the leaders in those areas, so that to continue enabling the security issues we have, because lack of proper infrastructure, even the bridges and the roads, definitely contribute in the raids that we witness and hear in those areas. And that is orchestrated deliberately to ensure that particular persons gain in those security deployments and security supplies of materials, is to continue fighting and defending in that area.
Thank you.
So it is important we educate our people, and we want to encourage everyone to do this as a part of our duty to serve this country, so that it becomes better and we hold our leaders accountable. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you very much. I saw Rufus Kamau here. Rufus, where are you? Rufus had a very great idea. He was saying that we consider all artists should participate in Nane Nane. He's talking about the role of artists and creatives. I had asked Njugush and to come here. I had even asked Nameless to come, but I think that will be for subsequent days, so that we can have creatives on board. Shiko Kihika, I saw you here. You did a very wonderful job in Nakuru. I really wanted you to talk about it. Yeah, I've seen Oeba, Willie here. Willie, are you here? Willie Oeba?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. So just hold on. You will give us the final spoken word before we close. Maybe we can take two more. Edgar, are you there,
Alex,
Edgar?
I'm around now. Can I
just
speak?
Hold on. Yeah, you can go on.
Yes. So if you study...
Oh, I've seen Okia. Okia has joined. Yeah, Okia has joined. Okia will come in after Rufus.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, 2 minutes.
So, if you study all kinds of revolutions that have happened all over the world, they have always had some form of artists participating and amplifying the voice of the people. So if you're an artist out there in Kenya, please contribute to this revolution by creating art that basically amplifies the message of what every Kenyan is going through. So this is not only limited to people who create music and poems, but then everyone can also participate. In this digital world, anyone can create art. So whether you do it on the road, whether you do it the Flossing Mawano way, just create content, whether it's a billboard, whether it's a painting on the road, whether it's some mural. Mural is basically art that is created on a building. Just post that message, write about it, write to those names, write those things that you feel are personal to you and how the incompetence in this government has affected you. Push it out there. Make sure that the message is very clear. Amplify, and this is how revolutions are built. A revolution is built into the mind first. So all these we are seeing, the civic education and everything, is basically based on the idea that people change the way they think before they change their actions. So the moment you implement that, the message will be amplified, and the current slowdown or the drag we are seeing in the revolution will change. So kindly contribute. If you're out there, if you're an artist, create art about this revolution, about the things Kenyans are going through, and this will help get the country back into good governance. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, Senator Okia, maybe you can tell us about the cabinet and the other issue. Karibu sana. We have been waiting for you. I don't know what was happening with your internet.
I think he's no longer on the speaker panel.
All right, he left. Can we have that's that. Willie, yes, how was Nakuru?
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who turned up. Nakuru was divine. Nakuru was... Hello, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
The minerals. These minerals that we are talking about are not... were discovered quite some time back. For example, the nobium, I think, was discovered in 1919. That's more than 100 years ago. And many other rare minerals, but the information remained hidden. There has been lack of political action to get these things out, because basically the political action got hijacked by market forces, and the fights between the various people, the various interests, denied us the chance to reap big from where this country would have made some interest. And I think nobium is a very, very, very important mineral that is used in many valuable products. And I think Kenya has got it's supposed to be the 7th largest deposits in the world. And the Murima Hills alone are supposed to be holding something like, they say something like 105, about 104 trillion tons. And a kilogram of nobium goes for about $45,000. So you can do the maths. So there's a lot of money there. Also, we saw just this year there were discoveries of coltan in Kenya, some of which had been taken out, like in Embu. Rwandese have been coming and buying it. People did not know the value. So just the other day that was discovered, they discovered it was coltan, another very important metal. So we have a lot of these metals here. And as I said, we need to do a resource map of the country so that we can be able to know exactly what it is we have and be able to utilize it. But I'd also want to beg these people, to beg ourselves to move away from believing that just the minerals are the silver bullet we need. Kenya has a unique human resource. We have been able to build one of the largest economies in East Africa, about the largest, without these minerals. We should, as we look at these minerals, we should not look at this. We should not ignore these other areas of building a very versatile human resource that can go out like the Indians have gone out and are conquering many countries. Not going out as cheap labor, but going out as people can go and invest in industry and do businesses elsewhere as we develop back home. So for me, I think if we did a resource map, we looked at the past, said all the mistakes were made in the past. Going forward, how do we make sure that what we do things the right way, and we avoid these issues? Coming to the question of what I said, that we're going to form a shadow cabinet, or sort of to set up a mechanism of monitoring each ministry that the president has set up, is basically one to be able to audit and ferret ministry budgets, because there's a lot of deception that you find that the national budget that comes to parliament has no relationship with the budgets that the ministries and the government executes. And to do that, you just need to take the appropriation bill or the appropriation act of any year and hold it against the corresponding statement, monthly statements of actual revenues, net revenues, and actual net revenues and actual expenditure that's published every month by the Treasury, and you'll see that the budgets that are being implemented by government are not the ones that are passed by the executive. So one of the reasons we want to set up this thing is informed by the experience I had with the Golden Bag issue, which now has got a three-judge bench and I'm prosecuting it. When Mr. Uko, who was the Auditor General, before the coming into of the handshake government, he was pursuing this matter with the pinpoint accuracy. And even at one time, President Uhuru rained on him, wanted to fire him. They moved a motion in parliament by Dwale. I took action. I went to court. I stopped that motion. I secured Mr. Uko's place to remain as the Auditor General. Then shortly thereafter, there was a handshake occurred, and you could see the change that Mr. Oko dropped what he was doing, and he wrote a very, very flowery picture, basically negating his earlier reports on the Golden Bag. And that's what the handshake achieved. Now that Parliament has totally messed up, it's confused. The first attempt, came when President Ruto enticed people to cross from the opposition side to government side to give him a false majority in parliament, which he used to undermine legislation and whatever. Now with the move of ODM, there's nothing like anything to check the excess, because what you have seen that the people go mechanism where we can be able to set up an orderly way.
All right. Edgar, is Okia still there?
I think he has connectivity issues. I can't hear him.
Right. You can mute his speaker and just inbox him and tell him we cannot hear him. So, Willie, you can finish.
Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who came through, everyone who shared from within and from far. Nakuru was divine. The movement is very energized, and it was such an inspiring sight to behold. The artistic submissions were very, very powerful to send a strong message that the quest is still alive like never before. You see, the past years, Nakuru had a history of voting along very deep tribal lines and also aligning along ethnic lines. But, ladies and gentlemen, from what I saw today, better days are still ahead. So let us keep going. So allow me to finish my submission with a spoken word poetry. Kabla death haijanok na struggles za life kunieka cotton, itabidi tupambane. This is where the truth is, round this tusidanganyane. Ignorance ni kama kutumia soprano kwa dress mata iko issue based. Chuo siku at my best, mode wangu hakuwa modest. Memory so clear kiniita ngombe sahi natumia sanaa kujilisha trees siko zero graced. Drama ya life, ni ati saa zingine voice ya actor ifanane na subtitle. Truth ni mtaland in trouble, si depending na deed umefanya sana sana kama huna title. Vitu peti ndo zina trend, tumesahau what it feels like kuaddress vitu vital. Immorality ina rule kwa nchi, viongozi walikuwa sworn in kutumia Bible. Naishi kwa nchi inanisaidia kupostpone my dreams. Now the only country I pledge allegiance to ni procrastination. Drama ya life ni ati saa zingine voice ya actor ifadai na subtitle. Truth ni utaland in trouble, si depending na deed umefanya, sana sana kama huna title. Truth is, si kila message sincere. Kuna wale wana preach peace kusuppress justice. Truth justice, ile peace tuna enjoy ina depend on justice. My friends at the high places know the law. Wengine wana practice. I don't know what you can do, but together we can do better than this. Repetition in a bow. Niliboeka kuandika piece ya peace, nikaandika kuhusu justice, because to spice it all up, nyama walishakula, kenye kimebaki ni the bone of contention. Actions ndo ina separate the word choices from decision. Mali natoka, hata the blind upanga laini kuchangua viongozi ya wana vision. Sijaiona success story ina mission. Generation ya sai iko talented to talk about injustice with precise precision. So tangu class 4 daro za mao ndio mimi nilianza kuchora mistari. Pia nilienda na exercise book hoping one day nitashare one stage na Juliani. Ukabila ilikuwa so rampant, mile clan nilitambua ni uko flani. Tuliacha kifuli moja mara mob, tukirudi landlord aliamua ku make it safer. Jioni tulipata vifuli mbili kejani. Saizo wanasiasa wako na security hadi security of Kenya. Mtaani chai haikuwa na escort. At times mother ali have kukaanga skari ndo wengine act kama majani. Na tulikaa njaa for days hadi hangejua Michelle ni ntalami. Nasema life is a journey. Huyu dereva na drive recklessly alisha cause accident but bado ajali. Life is acceptance. Nilikutana na ude mrembo lakini alinikataa. Vile ameweza si amekubali. Life is about moving. If you haven't met the devil yet, maybe you're moving in the same direction ama wewe ndio shetani. Ushaifikiria uzito priest tu anayo akiaddress mass, nilichoose word. Ushaijiuliza mbona Bible haina chorus lakini iko na verse? Juu pretense iko so open, crocodile tears inahitaji intervention ya kitunguu. Vitu kick zimepoteza meaning, pombe inatumika kutoa lock, jumulishapoteza kifunguu. We will make it in our motherland. Na reminders nafikiria lazima abroad ni kama neno success. Aina interpretation ya Kiswahili from Kizungu. Nasema pesa ni shetani, but ni chache. Mali natoka, wengi tunaipata kiumungu mungu. Asante.
Mungu nguvu yetu. Amkeni ndugu zetu, tufanye sote bidii, nasi tujitoe kwa nguvu. Nchi yetu ya Kenya tunayoipenda, tuwe tayari kuilinda. Na tujenge taifa letu. Ndio wajibu wetu. Kenya istahili heshima. Tuungane mikono pamoja kazini, kila siku tuwe na shukrani.